Hi guys, hello everyone. Welcome to the Trade Decorator Festival. We're live, it's 4 o'clock and I'm joined by Grant Robertson from Speare. Hello Grant, good afternoon.
Hi Paula, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. It's great to have you on the show again. And you've got some new things to show us this time. I hear you're going to be talking about the trends for 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be looking at some of the online trends for 2021. We're going to be specifically focusing on people's websites and a bit of other things all around that.
Fantastic. For people that haven't joined one of your webinars before, can you tell us a little bit about Speare?
Yeah, of course. So Speare is a web design and digital marketing agency. So we help people grow their online presence, and we specialize in working with tradespeople. So we've been going for a few years now and have helped lots of different people. So we've got lots of experience, and yeah, happy to be on Trade Decorator Festival, sort of share some of our hints and tips. And we're always here if people just have a question or want to drop us a line, then yeah, that's it. We're a small team. We've got Gray in the chat as well, who will say hello. And if I don't get to a question, then Gray will be able to help out as well. And I will try and answer questions as we go. And as I'm sure you're about to say, if there's time for Q&A at the end, then we'll do that too.
Fantastic. You took the words right out of my mouth. So as Grant said, if you have got any questions, if you could hit the Ask a Question tab beneath the screen, type in your question there, and Grant will either take your questions as he's going along or come to you at the end, depending on whether it fits with the presentation at the time. And I see you've all found the chat, so carry on commenting, and here we go. Grant, if you'd like to get rid of me off the screen and you can take over.
Yeah, absolutely. I will just fire this up now. And there we go. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the online trends for 2021. We've covered some of this already, but today we're going to be looking at what the trends are and essentially how you can make the most of them. It's going to be a variety of stuff, but as I said, as we are specialists in web design, that's initially what we're going to be focusing on. As we've already said, I'm the founder of Speare. We are specialists in helping trades out, and we've got quite a bit of experience in that, and so we're just happy just to share some of our tips today. So before we get into some of the trends, there's this one unchangeable trend that occurs each and every year, and that is to simply put yourselves in the shoes of your customer. And the reason why we do this is because that's at the core of everything that we do online. We need to think about what they want and how they want to access it, be that information about your company, information about what you might do, your reputation, and all of this information is worth getting right and making sure it's easily accessible online. So that's a really important part of I haven't really included this as a trend because it's just a universal truth of online. You need to always make sure that you're putting yourself in the shoes of the customer. When it comes to 2021, so we're going to go through today what might make it different, how things have changed. And this is something that we can't really get away from at the moment. And it is, of course, the C word. Like it or not, COVID has completely changed the world entirely, but also how we interact with it. At the moment, simply because we're, especially in the UK, we are locked inside our houses. Almost all customer research is basically conducted online, especially because we're unable to go down to the pub and ask people sort of who have you used recently and so on. And that whole mindset shift is likely to stay that way for some time to come. So even if you haven't had an online presence before, it's well worth getting one now, simply because otherwise you're going to be missing out on those potential recommendations. Usually, when people recommend someone, when someone recommends a company to them, the first thing that person does is when they get home, they go and Google that particular company. And if you don't show up, then you will fall out of their mind. And therefore, it's well worth making sure that you are available. Going into our actual trends now. The first trend is one which has been around for a while, but is always at the forefront when we're talking about websites, and that is quick loading times. Now, it's really important that we have quick loading times for our sites because we essentially will lose out on potential customers for a slow website. And people's attention span, people used to say that they have an attention span of a goldfish when it comes online. It's actually even less than that. A goldfish has something like 5 seconds worth of attention span, whereas people online, anything over 2 seconds, and if your website hasn't loaded, they're gone. People click back. People have absolutely no patience when it comes to online. And a slow loading website tends to increase a metric that we call bounce rate. Bounce rate is essentially when someone comes onto your site and then leaves without going onto any other pages, or leaves before the site even loads. And it's a metric you want to keep as low as possible. The reason why is because it's one of the metrics that Google takes into account when it comes to ranking of your website. So if you have a slow website, they're not going to put you that high up in terms of the rankings. Now, there are some, thankfully for our sakes, ways of checking it. And one of the tools which you guys might want to make note of is this one, which is called Page Speed Insights. It's actually from Google themselves. And you can type in a web URL, click Analyze, and it will give you some information. Now, most of that information is going to be way overcomplicated. But if you have a web developer, if you have someone who is looking after your website for you, and you see some results which you're not particularly happy with, it's a really good starting point for a conversation. So this is one of our clients, STL PKP, so STL painting kitchens and bathrooms. So if we just click analyzing, it runs through this very short process. It checks the exact page that you've searched here. So in this case, it's the home page. And eventually, and I'll wait, it only takes about a minute, but you get results that look a bit like this. And it gives you a score for both mobile and desktop. Now, you might see 53 and think, gosh, that's not particularly high. But anything over 50 for mobile, we classify as doing okay, but could improve. So this is a site which we would like to work on. Whereas if you look at desktop, anything over sort of 75 is considered good. Anything over 90 to 100 is considered excellent. So we're really close to that on this one. You get loads of information here, absolutely loads. Most of it is completely meaningless unless you are a web designer or a web developer. But this is something which you can look at and talk to people about who are looking after your website. So out of interest, if you have a website, head over, type in Google page speed, see how your website is doing. If it's not doing well enough, it's worth opening up a conversation. Next up, if you look after your website yourself and you are in charge of putting things up like photos or case studies on your own site, then we want to make sure that we're giving our website the best opportunity to load quickly. I'm just going to go back. TJ, you just said 8. 8 out of 100 is not particularly good. I would consider having a chat with whoever's looking after your website for that one. Now, if you look after your website yourself and you upload your own images, then this one is quite an important part of it. It's a really simple website called Compress PNG or Compress JPEG. And of course, I've got a short video here. If you upload your own photos, chances are you're taking them on your phone and you're uploading them straight away onto your website. Now, these are massive files sometimes, like we're talking many, many megabytes per file, and it all adds to your page loading speed. If you use something like Compressed PNG or JPEG, or there's lots of other different file types, it's really simple. On a desktop PC or a laptop, all you have to do is drag and drop your files, like I'm going to do in this short video here. You just drag it across, let go, and through a bit of wizardry, it compresses it. So it's gone from 119 kilobytes and it's reduced the size of it by 46. You then click the download button, it downloads it for you. It doesn't lose any image quality. You get to upload it and you've reduced that image's loading time by half. So that is a tool which I highly recommend. Will it compress video, says TJ? No. This particular website is just for JPEGs and PNG files, so image files. In terms of video, I have got a bit about video later on, but in terms of having it on your website itself, I recommend that you don't upload actual videos onto your site. If possible, upload it onto YouTube, and then embed the YouTube link into your site, unless it's like a background. If it's just a video which you want customers to press play, then stream it from another site. It means your site doesn't actually load it until the customer wants to view it. So we strongly recommend sort of linking from an external streaming site rather than having it actually on your site. Next up, the first speed link was called Google Page Speed. So if you just Google Page Speed, it will come up. I'll put the link in chat. Or Gray, could you put the link in chat, please? So why bother making your site quicker? I've actually covered quite a bit of this already. The number one is that you essentially want to make it as straightforward a process as possible for your customers. You want them to have a pleasant experience coming to your site. Straightforward as that. Number two is your Google ranking. Google pays a great level of credence to how fast your site loads in terms of putting you up and down the rankings. The faster your site, the higher it will be. It's quite as simple as that, really. So that's why you should bother with that. Trend two. We're looking at interactive elements on your site. Now we're seeing more and more of this. People want more from your site nowadays, rather than just being able to go and have a look through a gallery of pictures, or just find your telephone number, or find your email address. People are actually looking to have more and more from your site, and that could be a quotation tool. It could be a series of videos. It could be how-to guides, FAQs. There's more and more that they would like, especially if it's interactive. The reason why is because they want more information at their fingertips before having to pick up the phone. People are becoming more and more phone phobic. They're looking to get as much information as they can online first before having to make that call. Now, if you have a WordPress site, which is the sites that we build typically, but I know that sometimes Squarespace and the likes of Wix and so on have some of these built in, but they're not quite as well designed as this tool. This is an American quotation example of a tool called Cost Calculator, and it's really cool. Excuse all of the Americanizations like gallons and so on, dollars, but this is essentially a slider where if you knew sort of roughly what your quotations could be, and I would change this sort of estimate rather than quote, so that you're not sort of obliged to this price. But you can change sliders like the square footage of a house. So let's say it's like 3,000 square footage. You're going to have to go into that place and remove the wallpaper. You're going to want to be doing one dark color across the walls. You are going to be painting the ceilings across 2 floors with 5 doors and 4 windows. And this price changes on the fly, depending on what the customer puts in. So it gives them a rough idea as to what your pricing is. So lots of people don't like to put pricing on their websites because they feel like they're going to get held to it. If you don't like that, then some sort of interactive tool like this, if you have a rough sort of idea into this is sort of how much paint do you think you'll need. So they work out the length in feet of this and the width of the walls and the height, and it gives them a rough estimate of how much paint they need to buy. Just a nice little tool like that, which is gives the customer a little bit more information on their site. Moving on. Trend number 3, this is an interesting one, and really this is just a stylistic one, and it's what we call realism. And we're sort of going a bit full circle here because people are using online more that are missing the real interactions, and we mean like physical interactions with this, where people actually miss, because they've all got touchscreens that are flat, people miss touching buttons. And that might sound a bit weird, but we're finding that people are after buttons which look like they're going to push them. And it's a feature called neumorphism, and that's essentially turning flat objects into 3D ones. So it feels like people have actually clicked a switch. This isn't a complete necessary item for your site by any means, but what it allows you to do is just make the user experience of your site that little bit more pleasant and enjoyable. Number 4, direct chat, because everyone needs someone to talk to. This could be one of 2 different ways. Now, you've got yourself or growing more and more every year, we have chatbots. Now, some people absolutely hate chatbots. If you've ever had to try and get in touch with the bank or your energy supplier, their chatbots are absolutely atrocious. Whereas you can make quite simple ones for your site, which can be really quick, and it can be something like a message screen flashes up and says, "Hey, what might you be interested in? What service might you be interested in?" It could be interior decorating, it could be exterior masonry, and someone can just click that, and it will just give them the link to it, and it will send them through to that. Or it could be they could type in, "I want to get in touch with you," and it just pings up your number. Or if you don't like the idea of a bot and you think it might look quite spammy, then there are other options. Now, one of the options is that you can put a WhatsApp box on your site, and it flashes up so that if someone comes onto your site and they want to talk to you direct and you're available, then you can set up a WhatsApp business account. People can click on that and they can just send you a WhatsApp. Now, everyone knows how to use WhatsApp. It's almost universal nowadays, and it just means that people can get in touch really quickly with you. Well worth looking at, especially if someone's looking for a quick quote. Here's an example of it on our site. Just click, "How can I help you?" and here's our WhatsApp, and it just comes straight through to your phone. Here's an example of a really quick like quote form. This one's just a simple contact form that most people would have on their sites. Next up, video. Video has been a trend for a while now and is actually the most consumed form of content online now. It's not going anywhere fast, but lots of people aren't making the most of it or making use of it whatsoever. How could you use video as a decorator looking to sort of grow your online presence? There are different ways. One of the ways which I found recently that I saw someone had done is just a simple sort of fly on the wall video. They're really easy to film. Everyone has got a high definition video camera in their pocket nowadays. And you just prop that up on whatever it might be, make a nice foreground, and then just get to work in the background. And even if it's just a background on your site or a small video, it just, people like to see people in action. If you are feeling more adventurous, you might even film a bit of yourself to camera. You might even film a demonstration. You might even, what's the thing that you are engaged with the most with your customers? Are you an expert on painting exteriors? Are you an expert at painting, who knows, stairwells? And then you can film yourself doing that, or even a tiny snippet, and put it on the site so that people know what to expect in advance. And videos are so much more powerful than still images or text. But these are quite helpful, just ones, and they can act as nice like banner backgrounds as well. And where should you use that video? Well, we've talked about on the website, but if you are doing especially pieces to camera where you're interacting with people on your socials, so your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those type of ones, people love seeing those type of videos on there. And you may even want to consider doing it in ads. I recently got targeted by an ad on Facebook, which was for a floor sanding company, because we've recently moved into a house, and I Googled floor sanding, and then suddenly I was barraged by Facebook ads. But one of them was just a guy who just did a, what are they called? A video where he put it behind him and then sped it up, and it just showed the difference between the start and end. And it just flew for it, showed what he could do, and it came up really nicely. And I thought, okay, that's a guy who knows what he's doing. And time lapse, thank you, John. And it worked perfectly. And it's just a really simple advert. You didn't really have to put much effort into it at all, and it came out really nicely. Next up, number 6. This is specifically for your website. People are using more and more what we call full screen hero headers, which is a fancy way of saying great big photo the moment that you land on your site. An example of this is like this one from a client who we worked with recently. The reason why we have these big hero headers are so that you can just show off your work straight away. It's a really quick, straightforward way of just getting your work into their face. You can have the hovering over text, so you can explain what you do and show what you do. Some people also do it for the pictures of their local area. Another example that we have here is that SDL site I showed you. This the screenshot's come out a bit blurry, but here they also have using the top of the header to show star rating, build up a bit of background about themselves, showing any endorsements that they've got, and then having a big hero image as well. Next up, trend 7. This is one of our final trends, an SSL certificate. You may have heard of this. This is essentially the fancy padlock that you see in the top left-hand corner of the screen. You might see it now if you're looking on desktop. Next to the web address, you'll see that there's a padlock. On Crowdcast, there is anyway. Check whether or not your website has this. Does it have the padlock, or does it have an exclamation mark and a triangle? If it has the exclamation mark and a triangle, it means that your website does not have an SSL certificate. And put straightforward, an SSL certificate is a way of Google or just the internet in general checking that your website is secure, essentially. It used to be a nice to have. It is now a standard. Google is moments away, I'd say, from basically barring sites from ranking which don't have them. It essentially authenticates a user ID and encrypts any data which they send to you through your website. So it protects the user and it protects you. If you don't have one, definitely get one. The way to get one is to speak to your hosting provider. So if you are a Wix Squarespace user or something like that, it'll be going direct to them. If you have got a web agency to build a site for you, and it's something like a WordPress site, it will be your hosting provider. That might be through them, or it might be through someone like GoDaddy or SiteGround or someone, or One-on-One, 123reg, those type of people. Worth having a look into if you have not got one. Simple to check whether or not you do. Essentially, this is what it looks like. We have padlock is good, exclamation mark is bad. Talk to your hosting provider if you don't have one. Trend 8, another one like video that's not about to go anywhere. About pages. We strongly recommend that everyone has an about page on their site. And the reason for that is it simply builds up a story about you. This is one from our site. You can see Penny, Gray, and I on it. And it only really works if you have personalization. So we strongly recommend that you talk about your story. Why do you love working where you work? Talk about your local area, who's in your team. Let customers know who is actually going to walk through their door. And that personalization breeds trust and it breeds loyalty with people as well. If you just have a blank website that shows a couple of very nicely painted rooms, but no pictures of who did it, it's difficult for the customer to put a face to the name. And sure, they might still get in touch with you, but if they've seen you, or even better, heard from you through something like a video, then that trust is already starting to grow and they're far more likely to get in touch. So that covers all of our immediate trends for 2021, but I have got 4 more sort of key quick points for the future. In terms of growing your online presence, these are just a few quick tips. The first one is we strongly recommend that you share it. So spread the word about your online site. The more people visiting your site, the more popular it gets with Google, because it simply takes notice. Popular websites, it deems must be therefore popular, and it will put them up the rank. More eyes on your site increases simply the potential for work. So make sure you're sharing your site with friends and family initially, and then customers. Get customers to revisit it, share your site, encourage people to do it, especially after you've completed work with them. The more shares, the more eyes on your work. Next one, make sure you update it. Websites do need updates just like your phone does. So we all have those regular iOS or Android updates that come along. If you ignore them on your website, it will simply stop working eventually. So if you are looking after your own site, please do log in. Let's say set a reminder on your phone, even if it's once a month. It's surprising how quickly they build up. I logged into a client site the other day who said promised they were keeping it updated. There were 25 updates they needed doing. One was 6 months ago. It's well worth doing, and that's about 50% of the time. If your site is slowing down, it's because it needs to be updated. Next up, maintaining it. Slightly different to updating it. It means don't ignoring your site and considering it done. We've heard this quite a few times. People, I've got a website and I've done it. And then you look, and the last time that they uploaded a photo of any of their work was from 2015. And it just doesn't look very fresh. And quite often people will log on to your site, and especially if the photos or videos are dated, and they see that it says last updated in 2015, the customer does not know if you're even still working, and it just doesn't make you feel 100% like this person is paying much attention to what they're doing. So keeping it fresh is a really straightforward piece of advice. You could upload a new job. It could be a new case study, sort of before and after type thing. It could be that you've got a new member of your team. A sneaky way of showing your site looking more fresh, if you really don't have the time to log on to do it, is to embed a social feed on it. So let's say you're more active on Instagram or Facebook, and you have a professional work style sort of Facebook feed or Instagram feed. You can embed those feeds onto your site and it will automatically update. So whenever you post to Instagram or you post to Facebook, it automatically shows onto your site. And that works really well. It keeps it looking fresh. People can see your latest work, and it's strongly recommended. Next up, and the final one, is just straight up do it. If you haven't got a website or you haven't got those social media presence, go ahead and do it. It legitimizes any recommendations that come from someone, and it has a professional front whilst promoting your business. There's not a lot to not like there. So if you are on the fence, I would say give it a go. And that's it from me. I have a final note, which is a freebie. You're more than welcome to grab a slot with me to discuss your business in detail. If you want to have a chat, or even if you've got a website and you want me just to have a quick look at it, or my team to have a quick look at it, and we can let you know some pointers, drop me a line. This is our email address, inquiries@shakeandspeare.com. And if you want to talk about having a website built for you, or even Google My Business, here is a 10% off voucher. All you have to do is drop us a line and just quote this Decorator Webinar 2021, and we'd be more than happy to help out. That covers it. Here are my contact details. I'll put them up there. Any questions, please do drop them over. I can see that Russell has just asked a question, which is a bad website better than no website? Russell, that depends. The reason why it depends is because if you have a website which doesn't load very much and hasn't been updated in a long time, like I was saying, it can actually be a negative, because it means that people either think you've stopped trading if you haven't updated it in a long time, or if it takes ages to load, it might be putting people off. But I think that having a website in general is better than completely not having one at all, simply because it gives you the chance for people to come and see you. There's no really straightforward answer to that question. I would say if you consider a website to be bad, then it's worth investing in and worth sort of spending a bit of time seeing if you can, what's the word I was going to say? Seeing if you can improve it. Mark, I have a Facebook bid page. What would be the starting price for a new website from scratch? Mark, it depends on sort of size that you're looking for. So we offer one-page websites, which are sort of a good starting point for free. That includes your first year of hosting. We started this when coronavirus kicked off as a way of helping people get a foot on the ladder, as it were. But if you're looking to get a sort of a decent looking business site, like some of the ones which I shared in the presentation, are 5-page websites. So that would be a homepage, contact page, and 3 service pages, or about pages, however you like. They are 500 quid. And that includes your first year of hosting. So it'd be 450 with the voucher, which I've put there. And then you don't pay for hosting until the next year. And we don't charge anything monthly personally. We feel like your website is an investment that you do and you shouldn't be tied into it for months and months and months. So once you've paid that initial bit, that's it. And then you just pay annually for hosting. You're welcome to pick whatever you want. Darren, example of an out-of-date site. I just had a build around this afternoon, has copyright 2005 on its first home and email address, one of which hasn't worked for years and the guy didn't even realize. Yeah, exactly, Darren. 100%. And I bet that sort of felt like he wasn't 100% particularly professional, and it doesn't make you feel like that's someone who you necessarily want to engage with. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's appreciated. There we go.
Do we have any more questions for Grant?
Quick drink.
One's just popped up for you there.
Okay.
Let's have a look. Joanne says, I understand you have to put the correct keywords to be found online. So SEO purpose, do you find the keywords?
Yes. Okay. So in order to rank on Google, yes, you do need to put correct keywords onto your site. In terms of finding the correct words, it really depends on how you can get there. But I'm just going to try and share my screen a second again.
Okay.
And I will just while I'm going to talk while trying to get somewhere quickly. So one of the best ways to do is Google Ads is a really straightforward way of finding keywords. You can set up an account for free. You don't have to pay any money. And they have something called a keyword planner. Now it's linked really to paid advertising, but the search volumes are about the same. So I'm just going to share my screen. This is a dead ads account. So that's why it says that there are no clicks, no impressions, nothing. But if you go to tools and settings and then over to keyword planner. So if you just Google keyword planner, takes a minute to load. You can discover new keywords. Let's type in here, decorator in, I don't know, Reading. And you can just click get results. And it shows you sort of what the volume of searches are in that particular area. So this is in the UK over the last 12 months. Not much in the search. So this is sort of average monthly search volume. But then you can see painting and decorating has a much higher volume per month. Decorator painter Reading goes up. So these are the type of keywords which you want to include. Now, I haven't quite got time to go through how you would put them in. I'm more than happy if you want me to go through that. Just drop me a line direct, Joanne. But it is true. You do need to include those keywords in order to rank. If you were just to include your brand name or the name of your company and not really explain what you do, then Google will struggle to know what's on your website. To be honest, most of the time when you are writing out your site, you cover most of those keywords through just explaining what you do. So if you put the effort into it and include that text, what you do, where you do it, you will cover many of the keywords automatically.
Fantastic. It's been a great session, Grant. I'm sure we've all learned a lot and can go and have a look at our websites and how they're performing. If you do want to get in touch with Grant, he's put some links in the chat there if you want to scroll through and have a look on their website or get in touch with Grant directly, and he'll be happy to help you. There you go. There's the inquiries at shakeandspeare.com if you want to get in touch with Grant. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you have not yet booked for sessions for tomorrow, I'll pop a link in here and you can book on the sessions for tomorrow, and you can also take a look at everything else that we've got coming up for the rest of for the next 2 weeks. Thanks ever so much, Grant, for joining me. It's been a really informative session and I hope you'll join us again in October.
Great. Thank you very much. I absolutely will. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.